Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Behind Enemy Lines, the hockey podcast. As always, I'm joined by my friend and fellow South Oshawa teammate, Steve.
Hey, it's good to be back. And, anytime we're on the upside of a hockey game or a result, it's always more exciting to talk about what the possibilities could be. And, playoff hockey brings that up to another level. And if you have been living under a rock, these playoff televised events, the torch, the people outside, the people in the streets, it's been absolutely electric and fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, it is exciting. Game six coming up, as we all know. But let's get started off with our trivia. You got a related trivia question for us.
Yeah, so we're in the thick of the playoffs, and it's we're up 3 games to 2, like you said, going into game six, and we're gonna question, and it might get brought up later in the episode about the scoring and where it's coming from. So we'll do it quick and easy. What Montreal Canadian holds the team playoff record for most points in one playoff season? Not in a career. What 1 year?
1 year. Okay. Okay, so let's get right into the meat of it. Uh, I guess our game breakdown, our game preview is all Tampa Bay right now. Like I said, we're going into game six. Montreal's up 3 games to 2. Game six tomorrow night. Um, what kind of thoughts do you have on how the series has been going so far?
Well, I'd like to say, we have played well overall. I mean, this playoff season has been a bit of an anomaly. You've got a game six tonight, Dallas and Minnesota. They are two teams that were second and third in their division, but second and third in the conference.
Mm,
We were second, Tampa and Montreal, second and third in their division, third and fourth in the conference. It's sad that a team with 100 plus points is going to go out in the first
mhm.
round.
Yeah.
So let's just acknowledge that regardless of the outcome of the series, it's been absolutely electric to watch.
Hmm.
These two teams genuinely hate each other,
Hmm.
like a hatred like no other. And the games have all been close. They've all been 1 goal games, and most of them
Hmm.
been 3-2 games. So do we want to throw out a 3-2 prediction for tomorrow night? It might be safe, with
Yeah.
the series being 3-2. I mean,
Yeah.
it might be, a bunch of
Yeah.
threes and
Well,
twos.
they've all been that close, so it's not like
Yep,
there's, well, was it, we've had three overtime ones, right? Three
yep,
overtimes, right?
yep.
And then
But
then the
they've
other
all
two
been one
were by
goal.
a goal anyway. So I mean, it wasn't overtime. Like, I mean, I know that game last night. Like, I'm getting too old for this shit. My heart, I don't know if I could take any more of these 2 minute drills in the end of a hockey game.
Yeah, and we like to make it interesting. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
You know, but let's just break down some of the key things in the last game. The dock line been fantastic. They've been fantastic all season.
Hmm.
Texier kind of got hurt at the end of the year after the Olympics. He came in on a scoring in bunches and he looked fantastic.
Hmm.
And then he kind of tailed off. We didn't know where he was going to be. Settled back into a playoff rhythm and his scoring. So that's been fantastic. Doc, who everybody threw for dead, especially after the reports of it deactivating the social media and all and the like, has been huge,
Is
scoring big
that
goals.
real? Did he really do that? Like, because I heard about that, but I just sometimes don't know what to believe anymore, right?
Yeah, he deactivated his Twitter because or his X account because the hatred in his Instagram because
Uh,
people hide behind a keyboard and think these people aren't going to see it, and they
yeah.
do, and their
Yeah.
families go on and not everybody might not monitor their own account, but they might have family members that do that, and they just shut it down. Much like Mitch Marner got ran into Toronto. We
Yeah.
don't we need to be better people. We're a
Yeah.
better organization. We have more class.
Yeah. I
So
think of all the things we're going to discuss tonight, I think you just said the most important thing that we'll say on this episode or in any episode that we've ever or ever will do is exactly what you said. We need to be classier. We need to do it better.
we do a pregame better. We do every playoffs. We do better. The crowds on the street are better.
Hmm.
We just need to treat each other and our players better
Hmm.
because that's what's going to bring people in or run them off subsequently. We need to be
Yeah.
better, right? In a world full of hate, we're all banding together. Let's just stick together. We need to win
Yeah.
hockey games. Let's just cheer. Let's just cheer
Yeah.
one way or the other. We need to cheer.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that about banding together because like I had mentioned to you earlier, of course, not that anybody knows, but I was in Edmonton last week doing some safety training courses. Shout out to a couple of the guys I was in the class with who subscribe, you know, good job. But I was wearing my Montreal jersey out there most of the week, my Arbor Jackeye jersey especially in particular, and I was getting the thumbs up from a lot of Habs fans. Guys were wearing their gear, but a lot of Edmonton fans too were, you know what I mean? Hey, Canadians, Canadian team, way to go, with the whole, talking about, getting along and everything else. And I don't want to get political, but there's the whole, Alberta separation thing going on. But there's still, we're still Canadians, we're still brothers, we're still sisters, we're still, getting along, right? And I got to give them credit because I'm going to tell you right now, I'll never give the thumbs up to the Leafs. Never.
Oh, they're an organization in disarray.
Hmm.
And with some of the things, I mean, we were just talking before we decided to make this a live chat. Um, After the game, the guys are ribbing each other. They're watching interviews in the dressing room. They're laughing at it.
Yeah.
Guys that aren't playing are down there.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Galley and a veteran who didn't play and then gets called in. And, like everything that this team does is for each other. And, I was talking to a buddy of mine on my way home from, I'm not a major leaguer in any stretch of the imagination from my men's co-ed softball. And he's a Leaf fan. He's coming into town. And he just says, you know what? As a Leaf fan, I hate you motherfuckers. But
Mhm.
you are the most exciting thing since the Oilers of the 80s to watch.
Yeah.
The work and the puck movement and the fun that these kids are having. And they're set up for the next 10 years. And he says in Toronto, Rick Vive might have to come back and play because we're in such bad shape.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we laugh, but
Yeah.
that's the truth is that this team is so fun and they're all
Yeah.
banded together.
Yeah.
And, we will be a destination. After this year, we're a destination.
Yeah. Because we're right on
Because
that cusp.
other players are going to recognize
Yeah.
we are a destination.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I'm gonna again put my opinion in. You tell me what you think. The direction of Toronto is obviously not good right now, and it can be fixed. I mean, I just don't think they will. They managed to mess it up somehow. Ottawa, I think, is in a world of hurt too. I don't think Kachuk's got long-term plans of staying there. But you mentioned about, the Dallas Minnesota series. FYI, right now it's 2-2 in the third period. And this Montreal Tampa series, 100 point, 200 point teams are going out. You look at Toronto and Ottawa, and I'll say more relevant with Ottawa because Ottawa played in the playoffs this year. Neither one of those teams could compete with Montreal or Tampa. I suspect that this series would have been over long ago if Tampa or Montreal was playing one or the other one of them.
Well, the good news is that Toronto has the same number of playoff wins this year as Ottawa.
Yeah,
And Ottawa was led by their captain, and I think his new moniker is 007.
yeah,
He is the James Bond of the playoffs: 0 goals, 0 wins, and 7 penalty minutes. So
yeah,
but like Brady, you walk into this stuff, man. God
yeah.
bless you. I know he's getting raked through the media for maybe he's on his way out. I read something today that says he's frustrated. He doesn't know why that has come to fruition. He wants to be there. He wants to be a senator, but at some point, once the playoffs are over, he's gonna bury his head in a sand pit somewhere.
Mhm.
And some cat might use him as a litter box, but he's gonna realize that the Ottawa Senators as an organization need to do some soul searching and get some guidance because they had a good year and did nothing.
Yeah.
So at some point, you're either not getting the right guys or your culture just beats you up when it comes down to the end of the day.
Yeah. And,
And maybe it's that. Maybe it's the expectations with the culture, but they look terrible.
yeah, but I think he's his own worst enemy. I mean, the way he
You're
goes
not
out
wrong.
and carries around on the ice, the way he talks and trash talks and everything else. If you're going to talk the talk, you better walk the walk. If you're not going to do anything in a play, if you're going to disappear, you opened yourself up to that type of ridicule, that type of treatment because you started it in essence, right?
Amen.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to dive too deep and get all over Ottawa and Toronto. There's lots of time for that, but we want to we're in a feel good mode right now. We're, in a deep run of the first round of playoffs here. Uh, I know we talked about a little bit game six. What do you expect for game six?
Well, game six, I mean, this is a now or never time for this organization. We have turned the corner on the rebuild, and now we're in a position to get results. What does that mean?
Hmm.
That means we have to close out this series tomorrow. Um, I think Marty has done a great job. We were a tremendous road team. We went into Tampa and we've taken 2 of 3 from them on their ice. Now we got to stick the dagger in. Tomorrow is the day.
Hmm.
I think we close this out. It doesn't go back to Tampa. I said this prior to the playoffs starting. This was going to be won or lost on special teams. Our special teams overall has been better than theirs.
Hmm.
I don't like the fact, and I know you'll touch base on it. I don't like the fact that the officiating has seemed to be slightly one-sided, but it's been atrocious both
Hmm.
ways.
Yeah. Um,
And I hope that I hope that once a series gets to a point where one team can win, that they either call everything by the book or you let it all go, because it's got to be won by the teams or the players, not by the referees at this point.
yeah. Yeah. Well,
We have
I've
a
always had a motto, like when I ref, I mean, like again, I'm not no professional referee. I've never done a pro game in my life, but I've done some pretty high, minor hockey, men's league hockey, things like that. Um, I always tell guys, the guys ask me, as a referee, or sorry, as a player, we know when we've had a bad game and we know when we've had a good game. They said, how can you tell as a referee when you've had a good game? I said, when I've had a good game, when I go out on the ice and after the game, the players don't even know I was there. That's when I've had a good game because you let the players decide it. I mean, you call what you had to call, but you let go what you had to let go and not be the deciding factor in the game. And when I'm not the deciding factor in the game, that's what I mean by the players not knowing I was there.
Yeah, and we haven't seen that yet in this series. It's been, some questionable calls, and we're not talking, hey, a guy stepped on a stick and tripped and we didn't get it, or
Mhm.
or a phantom call, like a misaligned player can't skate backwards and trips over a blue line. We've seen that. We're not seeing that. We're seeing outright deliberate two-handers not being called
Mhm.
on certain players.
Mhm.
Because rest assured, if that was Jack Eye doing it, there's a double minor for sure. But
Yeah.
certain Tampa guys can get away with it because they play for Cooper and the wine crew.
Mhm. Um, so yeah, I agree with you. I think now if they don't win tomorrow, I don't think the series is over by any means because, like you say, Montreal's got a better away road record than they do home record. But I think it would be a lot easier if they close it out tomorrow night in Montreal. But talking about the fans, apparently I forget the name of the street and I'm embarrassed right now, but out in front of the Bell Center where all the
St.
statues
Catherine
are and
Street.
all the main street, the side street there. I don't
Yeah,
think it's St. Catharines. I think it's the side street in behind. That whole area, they have the big screen TV out there. Apparently, last night's game, they had over 50,000 fans jammed into that street watching the game on the big screen, which is amazing. And tonight, or sorry, tomorrow night, I suspect there'll be even more than that. So you're going to have 21 plus thousand in the building. You're probably going to get 60 or 70,000 outside the building. And if they win tomorrow night and win that series, the first series win in since 221
21.
since 21 and a legitimate series. Like I know it was the COVID shortened stuff, but still, I mean, it's going to be electric downtown. I tell you, I looked at the prices of train tickets to get down there.
Yeah, it's I mean, we're lucky, right? We can talk about teams and dynasties or dynamics and where salary caps are going. We have a young team, a young, exciting team, and they're all locked up. Like this could be something that we should expect for the next 7 to 10 years. We have that kind of system built and
Yeah,
a culture that wants to be there.
yeah,
So strap on your hard hat and your padded lunchbox, people. Go down there, like be ready. It's just what we wait for every year. Now
yeah,
we get to live it as an organization. It's
yeah.
been fantastic.
Okay, so continue on with our all things playoffs theme. We touched a little bit on the officiating. I know we'd already talked about, you know, uneven or unfair officiating. Look, you know me, we had a discussion on officiating before, and I made it plain and clear that most people don't know enough about officiating, and I by no means am the final say all and do all. My concern with officiating is a couple things. One is we talked earlier about point high stick Hudson in the face, no call. But then on the very same play, when he got up, he slashed him right across the shin. Now, as an official, I can tell you right now, players get themselves into the most amount of trouble because they retaliate. Because what ends up happening as an official, if we're not looking for something, we hear an initial slash, an initial punch, an initial something, and we always turn and look. And unfortunately, what we look and see is the retaliation. I can't call what I didn't see, but I can call the retaliation. And that, I can tell you right now, Hudson got high sticked. They may not have seen it, but when they turned to see what the commotion was, there's no chance they didn't see point slashing them. And I think
Frustrating.
Kucherov
I
did the
don't
same
think,
thing.
as John Cooper has
I think it
said,
was earlier in
typically,
the
oh,
game, the
there's
same
a
type of play on
retaliation.
Anderson, I believe. Like, I don't understand how you not call. I understand it's playoff hockey. I understand let them play. I understand let the players make the decision on the outcome. But at some point, you have to make that call. And I tell players all the time, hockey players talk about, oh, let's go out and set the tone, guys, let's set the tone. Well, the referee has to set the tone too. But you got to set it fairly, you have to set it evenly, and you have to set it with realistic expectations.
Yeah, and again, you might miss the holding the stick or the shirt tug. You might miss some of that stuff because the game is so fast. But when these things, the two-handed slashes, the deliberate 17 cross checks,
Yeah.
someone's going to get hurt, and that's where the league really has to make sure that if they're doing this right, it's the safety of the game.
Mhm.
Because if you don't call the two-hander, and then or the high stick, then someone's going to two-hand a guy across the ribs, and
Yeah.
and then someone's really going to get hurt and it's going to get out of control.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that that part of the game stays consistent with the integrity of why we play.
Yeah.
I know we all want to win, and if you're not cheating, you're not trying. I get that, but come on, we got to do better.
Yeah. Well, the officials are opening themselves up for a real problem. And listen, I've done it. I've missed a call or I didn't call a call for whatever reason, whether I was right or wrong. And I was probably wrong by not calling it. I'll be upfront with you. But then later on in the same game, the other player does the same thing from the other team, and you happen to see it and call it. And then he'll say, well, you didn't call the other guy,
Yeah,
and he's not going to win the argument, but in the same sense, he's not wrong. If you make the calls, you'll never have a player say that to you.
right, right. And
Mm.
like I said, we're going into game six. You hope that they don't. As much as I want to win, I don't need four cheesy penalties in the third period where we bury them and win a game 5-1. And all they say is, oh, the bad call, bad call, bad call.
Mm.
Let's put them away, put them to bed, do it with power, do it with talent. Let's just get it done. And then we don't have to listen to Dusharoff flop around on the ice like a fish out of water.
Yeah,
Cooper whining at the bench. I mean, for the amount of whining that fucker does, he should have a winery somewhere.
yeah,
Like, it's the time of year. Get your grapes mushing, man. Like, this got to stop.
yeah. Um, Jack, uh, I think he's getting a little unfair treatment. I'm not sure why. I have, which I'll discuss a little later. I'll let you go first, but I have my own thoughts on it. What do you think's going on with Jack?
Well, I agree. And, Arbor plays the game one way, right? He's rough. He's tough. He's rough, tough, and he's out there to do a job. And he's got that reputation. He came in, first pro fight when he was a rookie and laid an absolute beating on Zach Cassian.
Mhm.
And because of that, Cassian retired. Like, he realized his time was done. And when you do something like that as a young player,
Mhm.
the game takes notice. Maybe not every referee or every coach, but they know. Everybody knows. And when you do that time and time again, you're now talked about.
Mhm.
In a lot of ways, Marty has tried to corral him and get him to play a better style of hockey so he can be utilized more. But in my opinion, in these playoffs, he's getting the big boy penalty. It's like the guy that's 5'1" and 130 pounds when he's 9, and he goes into a corner and he can't skate. And the other guy goes down because he's in the wrong place at the wrong time. Nobody does anything wrong, and the referee says, "I got to give this guy a penalty." I think Jack Guy's getting called a lot of the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, it's bullshit. But you can't just give him a penalty because he's feared by everybody else. That's not right.
Mm-hmm.
Because he hasn't done anything in this series that says otherwise. He hasn't slew-footed somebody, headbutt, butt end. He hasn't done anything dirty where you say, we got to remove him because he's one more temper tantrum away from ending someone's career on the ice.
Yeah.
He's just getting the big boy, big tough guy penalty. And it's
Yeah.
not, I think it's unjust.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Jack Guy's ever been a dirty player. I don't think he's ever done cheap shots. I don't, he's the guy, he's going to square off face to face and say, let's go. Like, he's not a guy that's going to do, he's not going to do Kucherov or Corey Perry type of bullshit, the slashes and all that stuff, the cheap stuff. He's coming at you man to man, and let's sort this out, right? But I think a couple things is happening, and I think you touched on a little bit about St. Louis trying to reel him in a little bit. But I'm wondering if the league's not trying to reel him in a little bit too, because they're trying to. I mean, I don't think it's a secret. Gary Bettman and all them would like to have fighting gone out of the league altogether. And I'm just wondering if there's been some way, somehow, whether it be, talking to the officials. I think you mentioned earlier when we were discussing offline that maybe they've called Montreal and said, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But my other thing I wonder is there somewhere along the line, whether it be, uh, you know, this year sometime, last year sometime, where in breaking up a fight, an official got punched, got hit accidentally, whatever. Jack Eyes maybe shoved somebody we don't know about or said something to an official that's, got their ire and they've got him as a marked man. I'm just wondering if that's the case.
And you might be right. Unfortunately, no fan watches 82 games a year. If you live in the Eastern, if you're in our time zone, not everybody wants to stay up to watch a Tuesday night game against Anaheim because you have to go to work tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're dependent on the other networks' coverage. Are you getting all the stuff that happens? Because there are TV timeouts and they break and then something happens. Well, they've already gone.
Mm-hmm.
So do we get that?
Mm-hmm.
Are we getting, like you said, we don't have, not every guy's mic'd up, so you don't know.
Yeah.
But for some reason, he has drawn the ire of somebody in an NHL office or the player safety committee and said, this guy, we can't let it get out of control because he is the inmate that will run the asylum.
Yeah.
And it's unfair to get.
Yeah, it's not right. And I think I think we got to talk about probably, in my opinion, the highlight of the night last night, Galley scoring a goal back in the lineup.
Yeah, we've been hard on Mr. Gallagher all year.
Mm-hmm.
And, his skills are declining. And, is the juice worth the squeeze? At some point between the Olympics and the end of the season, Mr. Kapanen has found himself in the doghouse somewhere. And a change was going to be made. So Marty had two choices as far as I'm concerned: Brendan Gallagher or Joe Veleno.
Mm-hmm.
Galley wears a letter on his shirt.
Yeah.
Veteran, are you going to get more of a jump out of him? Probably. And let's give the guy his flowers, because at the end of the day, he scored a big goal, right? First goal gets us gets us a lead. A veteran who's not played. It's the feel good story. But at the end of the day, he was brought in to do a job and give us a jump. He did exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
He played less than 7 minutes, but it is what it is. Right?
He made quality 7 minutes though.
Yeah, because Kapanen only played 8.
Yeah.
Galley played less. But in a tough, tight game,
Mm-hmm.
that's what's going to happen. It didn't. If that was Veleno, he might have only played 9 minutes. It's not that one guy was coming in to play 18. Go in and do your job. Do it well. You get to do it again. I expect Galley to be back in the lineup for Game 6, because why would you take him out at this point?
Yeah.
Especially coming home to the home crowd.
Yeah. That building's going to be rocking when he comes out.
You know, I mean, he can grow up and tell his grandkids that that was an end to end and bury the footage somewhere, and and over glamour. But good for him, well earned.
Hmm. Yeah, that was a typical galley goal. Go to the net and
Yep.
jam. Yeah, and it
Put your
paid
head
off.
down.
Yeah,
Put your head down. Get there. Get your result, and
yeah.
just
Which kind of ties into the next thing I want to ask you about. Uh, that was a playoff performance. Galley is built for the playoffs. I don't
yeah,
think it's no secret. Like we talked about, he's losing his speed, he's losing whatever. But I just think he's built for a playoff with that rough type of playoffs that, we know the way hockey changes in the second season, right?
yeah.
But another nice surprise, uh, who really honestly didn't do much all year. But boy, when the playoffs started, Anderson's a whole new man.
Well, um, yeah, we like to criticize people because there are an average number of fans that look at only the stat sheet.
Mhm.
Who scored? We won 5-2. Who was on the ice? We lost 4-1. Who was a minus? We look at the faults. Not every guy is going to score 50 goals. Not every guy is going to score 70 points. Not every guy can body check a guy. Not every guy can fight a guy. But Anderson is built for the playoffs. He's one of the fastest skaters we have. He's definitely one of the biggest bodies.
Mhm.
And in a playoff series, he is throwing himself into everything. He is dragging the bottom six group of players into the fight every time he's on the ice. And the Tampa players know it. When he's barreling down, they are turning the pucks over.
Yeah.
He might not be the direct beneficiary, but his actions are. And if I'm picking an MVP of the series so far, it's Anderson.
Yeah. And I would agree. I mean, we talked about it before. To me, there's only two candidates, Anderson and Dobesh, and we'll touch a little bit later on Dobesh um, after. But I've been of the opinion, let's get rid of Anderson, right? Because during the regular season, he's a different player. I think he's built for the playoffs. He's a playoff player. He's that grinding power forward, skates north and south, none of this east and west garbage. He's like you said, heads up because the Anderson train's coming in, and I'm kind of I can admit when I was wrong, right? I think maybe Anderson's more important to this team than I thought he was.
Yeah, and at some point, it's easy to look at him and say, where does he fit?
Mhm.
He's not scoring, so he can't be on the top line. He's not scoring enough to be on the second line. He doesn't check well enough. Look, his game has evolved. He kills a lot of penalties now.
Mhm.
He is an asset. And in the
Mhm.
playoffs, that big body, as you know, I mean, again, we people talk about, oh, we're a small team with Hudson and Caulfield. Well, he's a big body. Why would we get rid of him at this point?
Mhm.
I hope he's the kind of guy. I think he's only got 2 years left this year and maybe one more or two more
Yeah,
after
that's
this.
what I was just looking up. He's got a fairly good number, 5.5 million this year and next year, and then he's a UFA. So
And there's no reason that we couldn't bring him back again at that $5 million range for another 2 or 3 years,
yeah,
assuming we're in the playoffs like this because of what he's done.
yeah.
This is a guy that will put every ounce of his last name aside because that big CH on the front is the most important thing, and he's proven to be the
Mhm.
playoff warrior that we need him to be.
Yeah. And seeing you mention it, we'll go on to that one next. Scoring. I know it seems like the bottom six have been carrying the most of the workload for the scoring on 5-on-5. I mean, I know we've scored. The power play's been pretty good as can be expected, but 5-on-5 play, the top six is outshining or the bottom six is outshining the top six.
Yeah, and this is going to happen in the playoffs, right? Like we have to sit back and look at not just our games.
Mhm.
How many goals prior to tonight? Because I know the Oilers will drop a puck in minutes.
Mhm.
Um, how many goals does McDavid have? He has one. How many goals did McKinnon get in his series? He's got one.
Yeah.
You know, the top lines always see tighter checking because they're the initial threat, the first line, right?
Mhm.
I'm not worried about that. I could care less how many goals Caulfield has because you're going to get them eventually.
Yeah.
We are scoring more than the other team. That's all that matters. So, we touched base on it at the beginning. Kirby Doc was railroaded, and we got to ship him out of town, and
Mhm.
let's burst the bubble on his air cast, and maybe he can't play, and all the other things that people were saying. But you know what? He scored some big goals. His line has been fantastic.
Mhm.
Bull Duke, who was great at the beginning of the year, then had a 50-game spell where I don't think he saw the ice much. And if he did, it wasn't for very productive times. But he's playing great in the playoffs. He's going to the areas that he needs to be. He won a cup in St. Louis. He knows what's got to be done. And we're getting that out of that group at the bottom. Evans has been huge. I think
Mhm.
Evans was 12-2 on the faceoff dot yesterday.
Yeah. I
Like,
think they've been 60 as a team. Montreal's been 62% overall, something on the draws, which is
yeah, like
outstanding.
we are, Suzuki, I think, was 14-5 on the draw. Like, we are getting the statistical numbers favoring us in a lot of other ways.
Mhm.
So they don't show up on the score, goals and assists. Who cares?
Mhm.
When you're winning games 3-2 and not many guys are scoring, to me, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We just need the red, white, and blue to score more than the blue, white, and black.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and we're doing it.
And I think it bodes well as like you said, you don't care where the scoring comes from as long as we get it. I think it bodes well that, our bottom six are scoring and doing so, carrying the load right now, because eventually the top six will break through. I mean, they're just too good, too talented to happen. Like you say, the checking is focused and concentrated on them. But at some point, whether it be tomorrow night and, if things go well, into second round, if we get there, which I think we should, teams are going to have to start spreading that checking around, because if they can't, it's good that they can stop the top line, but if you can't stop the bottom six, well, it doesn't really do anything, which is probably then going to open up more for the top lines.
Yeah, and that's the balance of power, right? I mean, if you change your focus in one place, we get you somewhere else, and
Mhm.
you only do that if your bottom six can win,
Yeah.
right? And we're getting that. And I don't care. I don't care if Florian Jacki comes up and plays 3 minutes if he scores a goal. If,
Mhm.
if that bottom six is what we have to use to win, it doesn't matter. There's no storyline at the end. It's nice. It's the storyline we need. That the supporting cast was as valuable, but nobody says, "Well, Nick or Cole, we're not putting your name anywhere in the record books here because you didn't score." Nobody cares,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? Team wins first.
And those guys don't care either. I mean, listen, I'm sure they would love to score, they would love to get their points and feel that they're being part of the success, but I think they know on the other side of the puck they're doing the things that need to be done, and they ultimately, as long as you put a W in the column instead of an L, I think that's ultimately, you know, their main concern. Win as a team, like we've said before, it's the logo on the front, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
let's be honest, Suzuki does have 6 points. He's just
Yeah.
done it quietly.
Yeah. And you know what? He's not a flashy guy. He's not the guy that's going to go out and showboat and do whatever. He does the work that needs to be done and where it needs to be done and do it right.
Yeah, he's not going to go end to end too often and light up a score sheet because he's got the highlight reel goal. He's going
Yeah.
to get you clutch goals. He's
Yeah.
going to come through when it matters.
Yeah.
And that's just the way he is. And again, win hockey games. The rest of it takes care of itself.
Yeah. One last thing. I think, did we touch on the our MVP thing yet about who would be the potential, like as it stands right now? Obviously, I know we're only 5 games into a playoff series here, but
I think Anderson has been the guy that has made the big difference. And I know, we talked about this, realistically, how many guys? Well, it's not been Caulfield. It's not been Suzuki statistically. Slav had one good game where he had the hat trick. So you take them out. Demidov has not been as dynamic. New Hook has been okay. You go up and down the list. And then, Dobson's not playing, so we're not getting his offense. Hudson's been quietly, he had the overtime winner. So realistically, it's Anderson or Dobish.
mhm.
And in the last game, we did out goalie them. I mean, I think if you go back and look at the Texier goal, I think that's one Vasilevsky should have had.
Yeah. He'll
Um,
want that one back for sure.
and he'll look at that and he'll be shaking his head all night saying I should have had it. And Dobish in the last 2 minutes of the game was fantastic.
Yeah.
That's what we pay him. Like that's why he's there. That's why he started. I mean, he's expected to do that. I don't know that he out goalied enough to steal a game. He was one of the reasons we won.
Mhm.
Um, but Anderson has been next level from the regular season.
Yeah. And I
So if
think
I'm looking at a guy that's elevated, done a little bit more, produced a little bit more, and has changed the game for the dynamic, it's been Anderson.
yeah. And I would agree. I think Anderson is the number one choice, and Dobesh would be number two. I mean, he stood on his head last night in those final 2 or 3 minutes. I know, I don't take heart medication, but I think I might have to start. I mean, he had 13 straight shots in that last bit and some pretty quality in close shots where I don't know how he sees half the stuff he sees, but he got glove or pad on it, and like that's all that matters. So, something I'm going to try. We've talked about different video clips and stuff like that. I'm going to try to find them and post them in the comments for people to look at. But the one you want to look at, I know we chuckled about it earlier, is Dobish's post-game interview where he stops and says, "The guys are watching in the dressing room." I mean, if
Yeah,
that just
you hear,
doesn't give you the innocence of hockey and how much fun they're having, you've totally missed the game.
yeah, because he can hear them.
Yeah,
Like he turns and in the middle of being interviewed, and I don't know who it was that did the interview says, "Did you see something or did you hear something?" And he
yeah,
says, "Oh, they're watching the dressing room," and he laughs about it.
yeah,
And you hear them laugh because they're seeing it on the feed.
yeah,
That 1 second delay or whatever. So
yeah. And then he says hello to them in the interview. He goes,
yeah,
"Hey guys."
yeah. It's exactly what the culture, right? The
Yeah,
young guys having fun with it. They know it's lighthearted. That's what gets them over the hump.
yeah,
They're not old enough to say, guys, dial this in. They're young enough to have fun, and they're doing it.
yeah,
And that's why I say we are going to be a destination at some
yeah,
point because all these guys are going to come through.
yeah. And it's infectious. And like you say, other guys are going to see it and say, "Hey, I want to be part of that." They're winning, and they got potential to go on a long Stanley Cup contender drive, but they're having fun doing it too.
Yeah. And I will jump into something different. We're talking about Mr. Dobish. Henrik Lundqvist just ranked his top goalies in the Eastern Conference and put Dobish seventh for playoff goalies. So maybe he took one too many pucks to the forehead in a pregame warmup somewhere, but uh, I don't know. He's been fantastic, and he's one of the reasons we're in the position we're in.
Yeah. He's breathing that New York pollution for 20 years has cooked his brain.
He's drinking the water right out of the Manhattan
Yeah.
River. I don't
Okay. Final thoughts. What do you want to talk about? Final wrapper up.
know. Final wrapper. Uh, I think tomorrow night we get a breakout. I think Caulfield and Suzuki find a way to be an impact in the end game.
Mhm.
At some point I think it comes crashing down for Tampa. Um, I believe Mr. Dobson is a game day decision to play. I know he's been out practicing and skating. Um, I'd like to see him play, even if he dresses as a seventh defenseman. Um, or we go a six and Struble doesn't play, and he only plays 8 minutes or 10 minutes a game. It doesn't matter. That's all Struble and Jack are playing anyway.
Mhm.
I'd like to get him back in the lineup because if it does go to a game seven, we're going to need him. But I like the energy. I like the camaraderie. I like the enthusiasm that we bring, and we've been consistent. The hardest thing for a young team is to be consistent because you either get too far ahead of yourselves or too far in your own shoes
Mhm.
where you're struggling to understand. Marty has got these guys dialed in. Like, I know one of the things with Marty and any past coaches or teammates of his have said, here's a guy that has been prepared his whole life. He wasn't the biggest guy, but he knew the game. He studied the game. He had a game plan. He executed. And he's got these guys doing the same thing.
Mhm.
We are seeing some flipping dynamite hockey.
Yeah.
And I think tomorrow we're going to see even more. These kids got their finger on the pulse. And if you go back to your Pee Wee hockey days, and yeah, most of my glamorous moments were probably playing in the tennis court down at GL Roberts as a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
But we all relived that moment somewhere. These guys are made for this.
Yeah.
So I expect another tight game, but I expect another 3-2, 4-3 type of game. But I think we put this one to bed tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're right. I would agree. it's going to be a tight game. I honestly, and I'm hoping, and maybe I'm way off base. I don't think it's going to be as tight as you think. It's an elimination game. I expect to see a couple things. I think Dobesh is going to continue to shine like he's been. So I think that's sort of, solidified us in the net. Whether Dobson comes back or not, I'm not sure, and I don't know how much a difference it would really make. But I look for two things. I look for the first thing, if it's in a scenario where the pressure's getting, and Montreal's fortunate enough to get a lead, and the clock's winding down, or at some point in the later half of the game, I expect to see Kucherov do some stupid stuff, because I expect Montreal to keep pressuring him, keep grinding him like they've been grinding him. They've done it for 5 games, and he's lost it a few times a little bit. But I think in an elimination game, I think you're going to see him blow up and do some real stupid stuff, and be off of his game. And I think that's going to open up for the top line of us, Suzuki, Caulfield, Slav, whoever, to give them a little more space, a little more. And I think Tampa's going to try something new. And I don't know what it would be, but I think they're going to try something new tomorrow, whether it be a lineup change or a systems change or whatever, because I can't see them sitting on what they're doing because it's not working.
Well, the only thing that might change, and it would be a grasping at straws, is to see Hedman back. There's no indication that he's going to be.
Mhm.
But if they were trying to pull the rabbit out of the proverbial hat, I could see Hedman dressing for the game tomorrow. Even
Mhm.
if he's not utilized a lot because he's not really game ready,
Mhm.
that might be the sit up and take notice. Hey, you weren't ready for this. They would be ready because it would be known during the day. It
Mhm.
wouldn't be, oh shit, puck drop, he's playing. Unless he's listed as a game time decision, then you say, okay, but is he going to be an impact player?
Mhm.
So I think that would be the only surprise that Tampa could offer, because you're not putting that idiot Sabrin in. He's afraid of his own shadow at
Mhm.
this point. So you're not putting him in, because he's taken dumb penalties, and he's only one more dumb penalty away from costing them the series.
Mhm.
So I think I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures. And when a team has got their back against the wall, and if they're playing from behind, the run and gun of trying to get caught up will lead to an odd man break, and it could be the dagger
Yeah.
goal, and that could be 5 minutes into the third period, or 10 minutes left to go in the game. But I see us winning the game easily.
Yeah. Yeah. I think on a personal level, I think my heart, for the physical, well-being of my heart, I would like to see a 2 or 3 goal lead, but I think unfortunately you're right. I think it's going to be another tight one right down to the wire.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Sadly, but it's what we can grow to expect.
yeah. Okay. On that note, what do we got for a trivia answer?
So we have to go all the way back to 1971.
Mhm.
Believe it or not, 20 games, 14 goals, 13 assists. So simple South Oshawa math says 27 points for the
Mhm.
big M, Frank Mahovlich.
Yeah. Were you even born yet? I don't think you were born yet, were you?
I was born in 71.
Oh, your birth year. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a whole year
So
old.
yeah, so they would have just wrapped up the playoffs, and I would have been that summer.
Yeah. So you're a Habs playoff baby.
Or yeah, I
Yeah.
was go back July being the seventh month, I was a Thanksgiving baby.
Yeah. Okay.
Canadian
Excellent trivia.
Thanksgiving, mind you.
Huh?
Canadian Thanksgiving, mind you.
Yeah.
Not this
Uh,
November American crap.
yeah. Excellent trivia as always. Again, I just want to say thanks for watching. Remember, don't forget, hit the like, share, subscribe, comment button. Let us know what you think. I'll try to find these links to these videos I've been talking about, and try to get them in check the comment section. Look for the links. If I can find them, I'll post them in when I edit it and throw it up. So anyways, thanks for watching. Steve always says,
Keep your stick on the ice.